This is a new Wall Street Journal article that just came out. It's breaking news. Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. Bondi also told President at the meeting that Justice decided not to release more Jeffrey Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography and the need to protect victims. When Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein earlier this year, they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times according to senior administration officials. By the way, I don't trust this leak. I don't trust this leak or this new reporting because I think this is to run cover for the administration a little bit. The reason why I'm saying that this reporting is running cover for the administration is because of this part. This is what the admin has said. Okay, this is the admin's perspective. Oh, we can't release the Jeffrey Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography. We know that that's what Pam Bondi has claimed already. No one wants that. No one wants there to be CSAM being circulated online. That's not the point here. People are not even demanding to unearth the victims here unless they choose to come out themselves. People want affiliates. People want associates. People want information on the level of affiliation, what the entanglements look like. Okay, that's what people want. People want justice for others who were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. The idea that this is a conversation about like releasing CSAM is completely ridiculous. No one is demanding that. The other reason why I think this is suspicious, this news article is suspicious in some ways, is because Trump already knew that he was mentioned in the Epstein files already. He had an extensive relationship with him from the 90s to the early 2000s. This is all public. There has to be something in there that he doesn't want the public to find out. It's not necessarily the fact that his name is mentioned in the Epstein files numerous times that is a shocking revelation. He knows that already. He knows that already. Everybody knows that already. Alex Jones has said that already. He always says like Trump was obviously mentioned in the Epstein files numerous times, but he says no involvement, no direct involvement whatsoever. So I think there is additional involvement with Trump and Jeffrey Epstein that we are not privy to, that he does not want out. In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files, the official said. Many other high-profile figures were also named. Trump was told being mentioned in the records isn't a sign of wrongdoing. The official said it was a routine briefing that covered a number of topics that Trump's appearance in the documents wasn't the focus. They told the president at the meeting that the files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past. Some of the officials said. One of the officials familiar with the documents said that they contained hundreds of other names. They also told Trump that senior Justice Department officials didn't plan to release any more documents related to the investigation of the convicted sex offender because the material contained child pornography and the victim's personal information, the official said. Trump said at the meeting he would defer to the Justice Department's decision not to release any further files. The meeting set the stage for high-profile review to come to an end. Bondi had said in February that Epstein's client list was sitting on her desk to review. Trump said last week in response to a journalist's question that Bondi hadn't told him that his name was in the files. The administration didn't publicly announce the decision until weeks later on July 7th, when the Justice Department posted a memo on its website. The statement, which was unsigned, stated that a thorough review had turned up no list of Epstein clients, no evidence that would lead to an investigation of uncharged third parties, and no additional documents that merited public disclosure. It said that much of the material would have been sealed in a trial to protect victims and to block dissemination of child pornography. Once again, the idea that there is no way to showcase additional revelations about who was involved with Jeffrey Epstein without like unearthing who the victims are is ridiculous. Typically, the FBI doesn't disclose materials that aren't related to a charged offense. This is another fake news story, just like the previous story by the Wall Street Journal, said White House Communications Director Steve Chung. In a statement to the Journal on Friday, Bondi and the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. As a part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings. On Tuesday, Blanche said on X that the Justice Department was seeking to arrange a meeting with Galain Maxwell in the coming days to discuss any possible information about anyone who has committed crimes with Epstein. Maxwell was found guilty in 2021, helping Epstein sex trafficking, and sentenced to 20 years in prison. She has been in custody since she was charged in 2020 and didn't testify at her trial. Once again, the retort from the Attorney General here is, oh, you guys want to see CSAM, I guess, you pesky little freaks. And it's ridiculous, okay? No one wants to see CSAM. No one wants to see the actual victims. No one wants to know who the actual victims are. Interest in this case revolves around who are some of society's elites that were involved with Jeffrey Epstein and to what degree was their involvement. Anyone who tries to use this as the mechanism of deflection is perhaps one of the dumber people that have either A, cynically decided to use it as a form of deflection to stop you from demanding these answers, or B, was so stupid that they got duped by perhaps the worst possible way of defending Trump's lack of interest in revealing maybe even his own personal involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. More than what we know so far, more than what has been made public over the years. It is also additionally suspicious that the Trump administration is now working directly with Ghislaine Maxwell. But there is breaking news. House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed Ghislaine Maxwell. The deposition will happen at prison in Tallahassee on August 11th.
Brother, control room, Ian Maxwell, speaking to Piers Morgan yesterday. I think it's relevant because, you know, it's him pleading, basically, you know, buttering up Donald Trump on the subject of his sister. It's going to take us a minute to upload it, so we're going to put that on hold for a second. But in the meantime, actually, I want to ask you the question that I asked Tim, which is, if this stuff ends up dirtying up Donald Trump or implicating Donald Trump or embarrassing him or just his name being in the files and it getting out there, how many supporters does he lose? Does he actually risk the MAGA base? Do they believe this conspiracy more than they believe in him?
I mean, again, part of that is unknowable. The MAGA base normally stays with him, but this is an area where we've seen real dissension, not just from some of the voters who want to get to the bottom of this, but even members of his own party who have, you know, put out statements and said publicly, look, you promised us that you were going to get to the bottom of the deep state, that you were going to get rid of all these.
What do I think is going to come from this Ghislaine testimony? I think it's going to be protection for Trump and other high-profile clients of Jeffrey Epstein. That's what I think. The only reason why Trump would ever allow this to happen is in exchange for leniency from his Justice Department. She is going to come out and be like, no one ever did anything criminal. It was only Jeffrey Epstein that did all these sex crimes. I wasn't even involved in those sex crimes, and I'm actually unfairly being prosecuted. Jeffrey Epstein acted alone. Okay? That's what I think she's going to do. She has already said things like that and ran cover for high-profile clients that we know of that have been actively sued and have actually pushed away from the royal family, like Prince Andrews. So if she's already doing that for Prince Andrews, and if Jeffrey Epstein's close personal best friend / attorney, Alan Dershowitz, is also demanding that Ghislaine Maxwell come out and release her public testimony in broad daylight, then I'm, of course, going to be very suspicious about what that testimony is going to look like. I think that there is not going to be any truth in this testimony. I think it's going to be in exchange for leniency.
So clearly, if the Wall Street Journal reporting is true, then that answer from President Trump is a lie, right? He was told this May, June, July, 3 months prior. He's asked if he was ever told this, and he says no. I will say one thing that is interesting that I had started hearing in the past week or so when I was reporting on this story was White House officials and Trump allies were going to great pains to explain to me, and what they were explaining was true, but to explain to me that just because a name...
I think that they're going to try to, yes, the trick the Republicans will play now is, Ghislaine said Trump is in the clear and Dems won't push for the files because they know some of them and world leaders are listed as well. They expect this all to be over before the end of the year. They will try to pack this up, but I don't think they'll be able to get enough people on board. I think that if there's one area where Republicans do exercise a healthy amount of skepticism, perhaps maybe an unhealthy amount of skepticism from time to time, is issues like this one. It's like vaccines. Trump was Mr. Vaccines. He did, he rolled out the vaccines as expeditiously as possible, and yet his base did not actually step away from being vaccine skeptics. This is another issue that, regardless of Operation, the Operation Warp Speed style way that the Trump administration will try to pack this up in unison with the Democrats, I do not believe that there will be people in the base that will stop questioning things. Okay, let's get back to the Wall Street Journal article now, the breaking news coming out of Wall Street Journal, and the additional details on what Donald Trump was informed on from the Jeffrey Epstein files to try to figure out why he does not want this information coming out. They also told Trump that a senior Justice Department officials didn't plan to release any documents. The meeting set the stage for the high-profile review to come to an end. The administration didn't publicly announce their decision until weeks later on July 7th, and this is when much of the saga began in terms of Trump's base understandably getting upset. The statement, which was unsigned, stated through a thorough review had turned up no list of clients, no evidence whatsoever. Typically, the FBI doesn't disclose it, blah, blah, blah. And in a statement to the Journal on Friday, Pam Bondi, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, said nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. As a part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings. On Tuesday, Blanche said on X that the Justice Department was seeking to arrange a meeting with Galain Maxwell in the coming days to discuss any possible information. Maxwell was found guilty in 2021 of helping Epstein sex trafficking and sentenced to 20 years in prison. She has been in custody since she was charged in 2020 and didn't testify at her trial. One of Maxwell's lawyers, David Oscar Marcus, confirmed the discussions and said, "We are grateful to the President Trump for his commitment to uncovering the truth in this case. Maxwell has been seeking to have her conviction overturned, contending she didn't receive a fair trial." Now, this is a crazy thing to say. Obviously, this is Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney saying this, but it's wild that they're making it seem like Ghislaine Maxwell is also an innocent party to this conspiracy, that she did not play a formative role, that she did not actively play a role in identifying and trafficking minors and even harming them personally beyond that, as the court documents clearly showed. That's why she's serving a lengthy prison sentence. She was also engaged in the act of sexual violence against these minors as well. She was, again, convicted for this. She wasn't just charged. This wasn't just like an investigation. She was convicted of these crimes, convicted beyond reasonable doubt by a jury of her peers. Remember, make no mistake. So for her attorney to make it seem as though they are collaborating with the administration to declare her innocence, to find her innocence, is crazy. Both Epstein and Trump said years ago they had a falling out. Trump has said their friendship ended before the financier was indicted for soliciting prostitution in 2006. Epstein later pleaded guilty to procuring a minor for prostitution in 2008, served time in a Florida jail, and registered as a sex offender. When Epstein was arrested again in 2019, Trump said he hadn't talked to Epstein for about 15 years. Epstein died in jail that year while awaiting trial on federal charges of sex trafficking. FBI Director Kash Patel has privately told other government officials that Trump's name appeared in the files, according to people close to the administration. Patel declined to answer an inquiry from the Journal about the Epstein case. By the way, this is most likely people like Elon Musk that is being reported on here, because remember when Elon Musk was talking about how Trump is not releasing the Epstein files because his name is mentioned on it numerous times, and everyone was shocked by this revelation. Yeah, I think it was directly coming from Kash Patel. Kash Patel most likely told Elon Musk when they thought that there was an allegiance there. Patel declined to answer an inquiry from the Journal about the Epstein case, but said in a statement that the memo on the Justice Department website explaining why the department couldn't release more Epstein documents was consistent with a thorough review conducted by the FBI and DOJ. Once again, these guys are behaving exactly in the same ways that they would if they were a part of the deep state, even though they were there to detangle and destroy the deep state, right? It turns out when you get to the position of power, you also are very much so deep state, because they are there to serve their billionaire masters. It's not remotely surprising to someone like myself, but I welcome the newfound curiosity and skepticism from the people that were formerly in the Trump base. Okay, if you are a Trump supporter who thought that, Trump was going to actually uncover all of these truths and actually actively combat the deep state or something like that, instead of playing a role in protecting the interests of all these elite potential pedophiles and all of these financial elites that were directly involved with Jeffrey Epstein, you were wrong, but it's okay. It's good to have a healthy dose of skepticism here for Donald Trump, and maybe you can use that as a learning opportunity for other things as well. Details of Bondi's meeting with Trump haven't been previously reported. Trump's advisors had for months, including during the presidential campaign, said they would release the files, and Trump, while at times equivocal, indicated he would support the release. Trump's supporters, including some now serving in senior roles in the administration, claimed that the documents would expose global elites and powerful Democrats who spent time with the disgraced financier. The decision not to release the files has triggered the most serious backlash from Trump's political base since he launched his bid for the White House a decade ago, with a vocal group of the president's allies seeing the move as a massive betrayal. Trump has told administration officials in recent weeks that he wanted the growing public attention on Epstein to go away. On Tuesday, House Speaker Mike Johnson cut short the legislative session as some lawmakers demanded votes on more releases related to the Epstein files. Lots of weird things happening in this story, and yet people still go, "It's nothing, mate. Why do you care? Why do you care about this? Don't talk about it." Don't you dare talk about it. Interesting. Grand jury testimony. Last Thursday, Wall Street Journal published an article about a letter bearing Trump's name. We already talked about this. It was a body drawing of a naked woman with Donald Trump's signature as the pubes of the lady. A spokesman for Dow Jones said, "We have full confidence in the rigor and accuracy of our reporting and will vigorously defend against any lawsuit." Donald Trump also said he was launching a lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for this. On Thursday, Trump said he had directed Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. On Friday, Bondi and Blanche asked a federal court to do so, saying it was a matter of public interest. The grand jury testimony makes up only a portion of the more than 300 gigs of Epstein-related material the FBI compiled as a part of the recent review. Among other material, the FBI confiscated digital and documentary evidence from Epstein's properties in the U.S. Virgin Islands and in New York in 2019 when he was arrested. Grand jury testimony is subject to secrecy protections and faces potential high hurdles for public release. Administration officials privately acknowledged that the court is unlikely to release the testimony, which is precisely the reason why Donald Trump was comfortable enough saying, yeah, they should release the testimony as long as federal courts allow it, knowing full well that they wouldn't. And they haven't, for the record. A federal judge declared that the files will be kept sealed. On July 15th, an ABC News journalist asked Trump as he took questions from reporters of the White House what Bondi told him about the Epstein files. Specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the files? And he said, no, she's given us a very quick briefing, Trump responded. He also said Bondi had really done a very good job on the Epstein review, except that was a lie. Pam Bondi had actually informed him that his name appeared in the Epstein files, as this Wall Street Journal article indicates. There's also a Bondi-Bongino clash, a Bondino clash, if you will. The decision to not release the files and the harsh fallout among the public has roiled some of Trump's senior staff who have staked their reputations on exposing the ties between Epstein and money deletes. Patel, the FBI director, and his deputy Dan Bongino had been in favor of releasing more documents. People familiar with the effort said. Bongino has told colleagues that his association with the administration's decision to keep the files private has eroded his credibility among the base of support that fueled his rise as a successful podcaster and media personality on the right, according to a senior administration official. Bongino did not respond to requests for comment. Bongino has also been noticeably absent from the conversation, as has Kash Patel. I think they're trying to basically hide in the shadows as this back and forth continues, so people forget their direct involvement. On July 9th, after ABC News reached out to the White House about Bondi's briefing to the president, Bongino and Bondi clashed in a meeting with Bondi in which Bondi alleged that Bongino secretly provided information to the media to damage her reputation. People familiar with the meeting said. Bongino in turn exploded about Bondi, his face red, and called her a liar. A senior administration official said, "If I was Pam Bondi, I would not be testing a man like Dan Bongino because he does take steroids allegedly, and he is prone to having roid rage for that reason. I myself have actually experienced a little bit of his wrath in the past." Here's Ron, the editor-in-chief of Midas Touch, saying, Kaitlan Collins reports after House Oversight Chair James Comer subpoenaed Ghislaine Maxwell. Her attorney, David Oscar Marcus, tells CNN, as for the congressional subpoena, Ms. Maxwell is taking this one step at a time. She looks forward to her meeting with the Department of Justice, and that discussion will help inform how she proceeds, which means before she agrees to lie for Trump, she wants an agreement to a sentence reduction or commutation. Maxwell has a lot of leverage on Trump all of a sudden, and she's going to use it to benefit herself. So what you are experiencing here is if Ghislaine Maxwell gets a sweetheart leniency deal, a plea bargain or something like that, if she gets like some sort of sentence commutation, know full well that she is lying in her congressional testimony. And because this cover-up is bipartisan from all aspects of Congress, with like some notable exceptions like Thomas Massie, maybe a couple others, who is going to, in the congressional testimony, who is going to actually grill her to uncover the truth? Who is going to point out the inconsistencies, especially if they are not privy to the grand jury indictment documents that have not been unsealed? If they don't actually have the documents, they can't even effectively counter her testimony. So this, I suspect, will be a part of one big cover-up. I think Ghislaine Maxwell, in exchange for leniency or sentence commutation, is going to basically lie at the behest of Donald Trump. She has already lied and said that there were other high-profile clientele that had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, blah, 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 all this stuff, including Prince Andrew, like the most high-profile clientele. So that's where we're at. There's always the 30% base, right? I think that under normal circumstances, when Trump deflects, the 30% base goes along with him. Okay? This is the one issue where they haven't actually budged. Some have, right? But many have not. This is unique. I think even if the Ghislaine Maxwell testimony when he comes out on August 11th, and she's basically saying that Trump had nothing to do with this, blah, 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 all this stuff. I don't think that a lot of the people who are invested in this case are going to believe it. I don't think that they're going to go along with this. I think they're going to see it for what it actually is, a cover-up. If your number one thing is that you're anti-establishment and you're invested in draining the swamp, and this is the swampiest of the swamp, and you're refusing to drain it, some people eventually are going to believe you when you say you wanted to drain the swamp, and they're going to demand that. And this is the closest people have ever gotten to draining the swamp, I guess, or at least a piece of it, uncovering a piece of this puzzle. So the very fact that he is outwardly refusing in a way that is uncharacteristic to Trump is causing people to pressure him more. And with that pressure, he does not respond well to that kind of pressure. Every time people are pressuring him further and further on this issue, he keeps coming out and saying some more ridiculous things, which causes even more animosity amongst his base. I don't think it's going to work.